Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about um, ownership as the way to wealth. So I want to describe or I want to explain two of those concepts: ownership, what is wealth, in my understanding. So ownership is basically entitlement to entitlement or claims to something. So if I own something, basically I have the entitlement or claims to it. So let's say I own let's say I own these headphones. So the use and the yeah, primarily the use of this thing is up to me. I choose when and how to use it. I put it wherever I want to. Like the use, I choose how it like how it moves, how I give it out. It's mine. Let's talk about now business. When you own a business, the entitlements that you have is, let's say, you have the entitlements to the profits, you have the entitlements to its organization, its structure, and depending on how much ownership you have in that business, you decide these factors, right? So yeah, how much control or how much you choose to operate this thing or how much you choose to organize this thing uh, depends on your ownership level. So the more ownership you have, if you have full ownership, yeah, that's yours. That's yours. You choose how it moves, how it runs, everything. Uh, if it's um, if it's partly yours, so let's say you've given up some little ownership for like you've given up little ownership in the form of equity to get financing. Let's say you own 80-20% divide. You own 80%. You own the other party owns 20%. So 80% of the value that comes from this business is yours. Let's say it's land. If you own land, the use of this land, it's up to you. So ownership. Now wealth is, let's say, the accumulation of resources, financial or otherwise, for productive means to an individual. So when an individual is wealthy, they have a lot of resources, and not only resources, uh, they are very productive and they are very useful. So if you are this, you have this description to yourself, you're very wealthy. But in the modern definition, it's very much tied to financial. But I can say it transcends financial, the financial aspect. If you have resources that are very useful and productive, um, you are wealthy, and how much of it you have. Remember, it gives you the advantage of exploiting different opportunities, different. You can do a lot with more resources. So yeah, that's wealth. But for today, let's just focus on financial wealth in the financial aspect. But I think it very much transcends financial, the financial aspect. So ownership. How is ownership the way to wealth? Ownership is the way to wealth because you realize that, let's say, a laborer. Let's just use the case of a laborer. So you see, labor, it's both a feature of business and economics or in economics. So labor is the component that transforms. How can I put it? What is the significance of labor? So labor is the aspect that makes work possible, or it transforms. Um, it is very diverse because you have labor in different forms, and all those different forms provide different value, but generally it provides the productive uh, manpower, or the productive, how can I put it, I'm trying to find a word. Let's say it provides the productive um, uh, aspect of the business. It's a core productive aspect of the business, in that when you have labor and you can control it efficiently, then you can do more for less. Like it affords leverage, it affords. But remember, laborers do significant work, but one thing that they don't have is ownership. And you realize that laborers are the or the labor in the company, or labor in a business, is a component that is almost the most productive in my view. It's probably the most productive. Probably, I'm not sure if but it's one of the most productive aspects of a business. But remember, there's still you can find a very profitable business, a very large organization making a lot in profits, but the labor is not receiving any large benefits from it. The reason is very simple: ownership. They don't own the 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 rights to this company. They have no rights in this company. It's just a part and parcel of the productive aspect of this business. They're just part of one way you can look at them. This is very interesting, I think, but they don't own anything. If they own, yeah, it gives them a significant advantage. But remember, most of them don't own anything in the business. They just work in the business. They just uh, uh, they're just like inputs in the business, right? They're not owning anything. So the business might be growing, but since they don't own anything in the business, then they're not entitled to anything. They're just entitled to their salaries and wages, and that's it. That's how it ends. But if they have ownership in the business, then you find that there's profits accruing to them as a result of the growing of this business, as a result of um, the uh, benefits that accrue to this business, and uh, that's how like people get wealthy. So the more ownership people have, whether it's a single business or multiple businesses, then you realize that benefits accrue to them, and these benefits, as they accrue to them, uh, it becomes how can I put it? As more benefits accrue to them, they become wealthy. That's the general thing that happens. They become wealthy and they have more options, right? So I don't want to go much into this, but I can say that ownership is a way to wealth. If make sure you own something if you want to be wealthy, because you realize that this is the way people get wealthy. It is land, it's real estate, it's business, it's financial assets. You own something. You don't lease. If you lease, let's say, if you lease anything or you borrow anything, if you use something momentarily, make sure it's very productive. Let's say you see when businesses lease buildings, they do that, but the business is very much productive and it can pay for their leasing very many times over, and they're comfortable with doing that, or they have like partly leasing, partly owning. So, yeah, if you have to lease, make sure it's partly, or it's a very productive thing you're leasing for, so that uh, the rewards or the profits that come from this uh, endeavor you're doing is paying for the leasing or contracts or something like that. But make sure you own something if you want to be wealthy. That's the way you become wealthy. In fact, you might be very, very rich from your giving up your labor or exchanging your labor for time. But trust me, because of the changing times, if you don't own anything, that the richness that you have is a momentary thing. It won't last. So make sure you own something if your goal is towards wealth, because ownership is what affords people wealth. It's the general thing that affords people wealth. You own the factories, you own the land, you own the, yeah, that's what affords people wealth. So stay tuned. Make sure you understand how ownership works. Make sure you understand what ownership is, and see you next time. Thank you for tuning in. Cheers.